This woman has no business being on this plane. People like her are always violent, Amanda Whitmore shouted, her manicured finger pointing accusingly at the woman standing opposite her. I don't know how she got in this line, but I am not boarding until she is arrested and removed. She is obviously sneaking her way into first class because she does not belong here. Amanda, a white woman who wore her self-importance like armor, gripped the handle of her designer purse until her knuckles turned white. Her expression was one of pure disgust, her eyes burning with entitlement. The airport gate was bustling with tired travelers, but Amanda's voice cut through the noise like a knife. Heads turned. Conversations ceased. Passengers glanced at one another, hesitant, unsure whether to intervene or retreat, while others watched with morbid curiosity. Standing in the eye of this storm was Vanessa Sinclair. Vanessa did not raise her voice. She did not argue or scramble to prove herself. Her presence alone, elegant, intelligent, and composed, was her defense. To the untrained eye, blinded by assumption, she was just another passenger. This was exactly how Vanessa preferred it. Dressed in a simple yet stylish travel outfit, she felt no need to flaunt her status. No one on the flight knew that she was the CEO and chief board member of the very airline they were preparing to board. Vanessa had returned to the country only a week prior. She had decided to fly anonymously to witness her company's operations firsthand, all too aware of the bias that could seep into customer service. She knew how people were treated differently based on appearance. But Amanda Whitmore had made a grave miscalculation. She wasn't just underestimating a fellow passenger, she was antagonizing the one person who held the power to ban her for life. Amanda, wealthy and arrogant, had spent her life controlling the spaces around her. When she saw Vanessa in the priority line, she decided without reason that the young black woman did not belong. The line moved forward, but Amanda stood her ground, scanning the crowd until her eyes locked onto Vanessa's unassuming attire. To Amanda, the lack of designer labels confirmed her bias. She was certain she had spotted an errant employee or a trespasser. Without a second thought, Amanda barked an order. "You." Vanessa turned, her expression neutral. "Take these bags and load them properly," Amanda commanded, gesturing to her luggage. "And be careful. I don't want scratches." There was no question in her tone, only expectation. Nearby passengers froze. Vanessa simply looked at Amanda, her face unreadable, before offering a faint, polite smile. "I'm a passenger, just like you." Her tone was calm, unbothered. Amanda's face twisted in disbelief, and she let out a short, dry laugh. "Oh, come on. We both know that's not true." When Vanessa didn't respond, merely holding her ticket, Amanda's annoyance curdled into impatience. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "I don't know what kind of stunt you're trying to pull, but you are in the wrong line." True to form, Amanda flagged down a passing employee. Her hand shot up, summoning a young flight attendant named Sarah. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" Sarah asked, tension already visible in her shoulders. "Yes, actually there is," Amanda said, gesturing at Vanessa as if she were a piece of misplaced cargo. "This woman is trying to board first class. I think she's confused." Sarah blinked, glancing between Vanessa's composed demeanor and Amanda's hostility. "Ma'am, do you have your boarding pass?" Vanessa silently handed it over. Sarah scanned the ticket, checked the seat number, and turned back to Amanda with a polite nod. "She is a first-class passenger, ma'am. Everything checks out." Amanda let out a dramatic, exasperated laugh. "You have got to be kidding me. That doesn't make sense." "I assure you, ma'am, her seat is confirmed," Sarah said, tightening her grip on the scanner. "We need to continue boarding." Amanda stiffened. Her authority had been denied, her bias corrected publicly. She noticed the other passengers watching, not with awe, but with judgment. Hating embarrassment more than she hated being wrong, Amanda forced a tight smile. "Fine." She stormed onto the plane, frustration radiating from her, but the ordeal was far from over. As Amanda navigated the first-class cabin, she found her assigned seat and froze. Her face paled, then darkened with renewed fury. She was seated directly next to Vanessa Sinclair. "Absolutely not," she snapped, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. "I refuse to sit here." A flight attendant rushed over. "Is there a problem?" "I am not sitting next to her," Amanda hissed, jerking her head toward Vanessa. Vanessa was already seated, stowing her bag, acting as if Amanda were invisible. The flight attendant explained that the flight was fully booked, but Amanda refused to budge, demanding a switch. The cabin grew awkward and silent until a middle-aged man in a navy suit across the aisle sighed. "I'll switch," he offered quietly. Amanda straightened, a smug smirk returning to her lips. She had won. She grabbed her bag and slid into the new seat as far from Vanessa as possible. She believed the conflict was over, but the tension in the air remained brittle. As the final boarding calls played, Vanessa stood to place her carry-on in the overhead bin. The compartment above her own seat was full, so she moved toward the nearest available space, which happened to be directly above Amanda. As Vanessa lifted her bag, Amanda's hand shot out. She snatched the suitcase and yanked it down with unnecessary force. The bag hit the floor with a heavy thud. Gasps rippled through the cabin. "Absolutely not," Amanda shrieked, standing up. "You are not putting your things near me." "Amanda," Vanessa said, her voice level but firm. "This is a shared cabin. The bins do not belong to individuals." "I don't care." Vanessa calmly reached for her bag again. "I am just putting my luggage away." "No!" Amanda grabbed the handle of Vanessa's suitcase with both hands. In a fit of blind rage, she didn't just pull it down. She swung it forward, hurling it toward the open cabin door. The passengers watched in stunned silence as the suitcase tumbled out of the plane, landing with a heavy crash on the jet bridge below. For a moment, no one moved. The act was so reckless, so undeniable, that the air left the room. But Amanda wasn't finished. Seeing Vanessa standing there, still calm, still unbroken, snapped the last of her control. "You need to move," Amanda growled, lunging forward to shove Vanessa. Vanessa was done being passive. Before Amanda's hands could make contact, Vanessa caught her by the wrists. Her grip was firm, not violent, a simple, defensive stop. The power dynamic shifted instantly. Amanda's eyes widened, realizing she was physically overpowered. Immediately, she twisted her face into a mask of terror. "Let me go! You're hurting me!" she screamed, her voice pitching up into a desperate wail just as the supervisor rushed onto the plane. "She attacked me! She grabbed me! I was just defending myself!" Vanessa slowly released Amanda's wrists, stepping back as the supervisor looked between them, the echo of the accusation hanging in the shocked silence of the cabin. Her expression remained calm, yet a flicker of steel ignited in her eyes. "That is not true," Vanessa said evenly. The supervisor hesitated, looking between the two women, clearly struggling to process the scene. "Hold on, let's slow down for a second," she stammered, her voice uncertain. "Ms. Sinclair, did you do—" Amanda cut her off before she could finish. "She's violent," she shouted, her voice shrill with manufactured fear. "She needs to be removed from this plane immediately. Arrest her." Vanessa, however, said nothing. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She didn't need to. Within minutes, 2 uniformed security officers boarded the plane. Their expressions were unreadable as they marched toward the first-class cabin, and a heavy, tense silence descended upon the passengers. One of the officers, a tall man with a no-nonsense demeanor, spoke first. "We've been informed of an incident involving a disruptive passenger," he said, scanning the cabin. His eyes landed on Amanda, who was still playing the part of the terrified victim, her hands shaking for dramatic effect. "Yes, officer," Amanda blurted out, her voice breathless and trembling. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at Vanessa. "She threatened me. She got violent. She grabbed me. I simply don't feel safe sitting here." Vanessa remained motionless, her face an impenetrable mask. The security officer turned toward her, his tone neutral but firm. "Ma'am, is that true?" The weight of Amanda's accusation hung heavy in the air. Passengers sat frozen, the tension thick enough to suffocate the cabin. Vanessa, still poised, refusing to shrink under the scrutiny, sat with her hands resting lightly on her lap, watching the scene unfold. Amanda, conversely, was far from calm. The moment she saw security step in, her confidence surged. She straightened her posture, her breath still hitching from her fake tears, and turned her full attention to her perceived allies. "She was aggressive," Amanda exclaimed again, her voice pitched perfectly, wavering just enough to sell the act. "She grabbed me and she wouldn't stop. I was terrified. That's why I had to defend myself." It was a masterful performance, and it was working. The security officer nodded firmly, his expression serious as he looked back at Vanessa. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us." Was the security officer right to attempt an arrest without verifying the truth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and click the subscribe button if you're hooked on this story. A few passengers gasped audibly. Others shifted uncomfortably, their faces twisting in disbelief. Some, who had missed the earlier argument, now assumed the worst. Vanessa remained silent. She didn't plead her case because she knew something Amanda didn't. The lead security officer gestured for Vanessa to stand. "We're going to need to remove you from the flight, ma'am." Amanda folded her arms, a smug look settling on her face. She had won, or so she thought. But just as the officer reached for his radio to call for backup, a new voice cut through the air like a blade. "That won't be necessary." The entire cabin went still. Heads turned. Stepping onto the plane with effortless authority was a sharply dressed airline executive. Behind him stood two more high-ranking officials. Their presence alone sent a shockwave through first class. The lead executive, a man whose very posture radiated power, took a step forward. His sharp eyes shifted from the security officers to Vanessa. Then, with a calm, steady voice, he spoke the words that made the entire plane hold its breath. "Ms. Sinclair, I deeply apologize. We had no idea you were on this flight." Gasps rippled through the cabin. Passengers sat up straighter, eyes widening. But the most notable reaction came from Amanda Whitmore. Her face went ghostly pale. Her posture stiffened, and a cold sweat crept up her spine. That name rang in her ears like a warning bell. "Ms. Sinclair?" Amanda swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "Wait, what? Ms. Sinclair? Who is she?" The executive's gaze snapped toward Amanda. For the first time since boarding, Amanda felt an unfamiliar sensation. Fear. His expression was stone cold. "You just harassed and attempted to remove the CEO and chief board member of this airline from her own flight." Dead silence. Amanda's heart stopped. Then, the passengers erupted into hushed whispers. "Board member? She owns this airline? No way. She's literally the CEO?" Amanda's mouth opened, but no words came. Her thoughts scrambled for an escape, a justification, but found nothing. She had spent the last hour trying to assert power over a woman who held more authority than she could ever dream of. And now, everyone knew it. Amanda felt the eyes on her, not in admiration, but in judgment. Even those who had quietly agreed with her earlier were now pretending otherwise, desperate to be on the right side of history. I didn't know," she blurted out, her voice suddenly small. "I thought—" Before she could finish, Vanessa stood. For the first time since Amanda had pushed her, lied about her, and thrown her bag, Vanessa rose with absolute control. She looked Amanda directly in the eye, and the entire plane watched as she delivered the final blow. "That is exactly the problem." Vanessa's gaze never wavered. "You didn't know, but you assumed." A hush fell over the cabin. Those words sank deep. Amanda wasn't wrong because she didn't know Vanessa's identity. She was wrong because she assumed Vanessa was less than her. She assumed she didn't belong. And now, she was paying for it. Amanda's voice cracked. Her fake confidence lay in tatters. "I didn't mean... Please, can we just... I made a mistake." But no one defended her. Not the passengers, not the flight attendants, and certainly not the security officers. Amanda Whitmore was alone. The lead security officer sighed, his voice professional but firm. "Ms. Whitmore, you will be removed from this flight immediately." Amanda snapped her head toward him, panic surging. "What? No, you can't do that!" She turned frantically to Vanessa. "Tell them, please, I swear I didn't—" Vanessa didn't say another word. She didn't need to. Amanda's actions had spoken for her. The flight attendant, previously hesitant, now watched with quiet satisfaction. Whispers among the passengers turned to murmurs of approval. "Yeah, get her out of here. She deserves it." Security reached for Amanda's arm and her composure shattered. "No, this isn't fair. I'm the victim here," she shrieked, desperate. It didn't matter. The entire first-class cabin watched as Amanda Whitmore, who had held herself so high, so untouchable, was escorted off the plane. Passengers began to clap. Cheers rang out. Amanda was still screaming as she disappeared from sight. Vanessa exhaled slowly and sat back down. The flight attendant approached, her voice soft. "Miss Sinclair, is there anything we can do to make this right?" Vanessa offered a small, composed smile. "No, I think the lesson has already been taught." The plane finally felt peaceful. Amanda Whitmore had walked through life believing the rules did not apply to her. But as she was dragged off the plane, kicking and screaming, she clung to the hope that she could fix this. She would complain, demand a refund, call her lawyer. She was wrong. Ms. Whitmore. Amanda turned sharply in the terminal. Waiting for her was the lead airline executive, holding a folder, his expression cold. Amanda straightened her blouse, summoning the last of her bravado. "Oh, finally," she huffed, placing a hand on her hip. "I need to file a complaint. I was mistreated, harassed on that plane." The executive didn't blink. He extended the folder. "Miss Whitmore," he said, his voice emotionless and final. "Effective immediately, you are permanently banned from all future flights on this airline." Amanda froze. "What? You can't do this to me," she shrieked, her voice carrying across the terminal. Heads turned. Cameras came out. The executive gave a slow, measured nod. "Actually, we can. And we just did." "I have connections. I'll have your job for this," Amanda screamed, her face turning an unnatural shade of red. The executive looked downright bored. "Ms. Whitmore, this airline has a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. Your actions today have resulted in a permanent travel ban. Any attempt to book a future ticket will be automatically declined." "No!" she screamed, stomping her foot like a child. "I'm the victim here." The terminal erupted in laughter. A teenager whispered, "Does she actually think this is helping?" The executive motioned to security. "Please escort Ms. Whitmore out of the terminal." "No, you can't. I have a flight to catch." "Not on this airline, ma'am," the officer said, taking her arm. And just like that, the woman who thought she ruled first class was dragged out of the airport. Passengers cheered. "I love seeing karma in real time," someone laughed. "I'll sue you. I'll sue this whole airline," came her fading scream. But it was over. She hadn't just been banned, she had been exposed. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Viral clips of her tantrum, her screaming meltdown, and the moment she realized who Vanessa was spread across social media. She was losing everything. Brands cut ties. Her inbox flooded with hate. She had become one of the most despised women on the internet. She had one option left: the apology video. The camera clicked on. Amanda sat in a dimly lit room, face bare, eyes red-rimmed. I made a terrible mistake," she sniffed, wiping her cheek. "I was wrong." She took a trembling breath. "I let my ignorance cloud my judgment. To Ms. Sinclair, I deeply regret how I treated you." A single tear slipped down her cheek. A dramatic pause. "I hope the world can find it in their hearts to forgive me." She posted it and waited. But as the comments rolled in, her stomach dropped. "Nah, you're just sorry you got caught. We don't believe you." Zero sincerity, zero accountability. The internet wasn't buying it. Her apology was seen for exactly what it was: damage control. The downfall of Amanda Whitmore was complete. Do you think her apology video should have been accepted? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, hit the subscribe and like buttons for more powerful tales like this. See you in the next story.